extremely significant. Again, as Patrick says, we were, I came into the team a year or two before that. I think me and Adrian made our league debut maybe 2 years before that, and it was kind of a perfect storm in that you had the 3 or 4 or 5 players from that treble winning side, along with 4 or 5, maybe 6 players that had played together, the previous 10 years. Now, we weren't successful at underrated, but we were competing and we were making it to semi-finals, we were making it to finals, and we never could get over the line. So I think in 1994, we hit a sweet spot in the club's history where you had those players from the golden era of the club in tandem with a young group of players who were very eager, no fear, mad to play, mad to train. And you had like Frankie Wright. I don't know if Frankie's here tonight, but Frankie, I have to say, I remember Frankie that year. Frankie was like, he was he came in with great energy, great ideas in terms of training and that, and it was, personally speaking, it was the best year I experienced with the Lara senior team. I think that obviously it ended with a championship win, and we managed to maintain our Division 1 status. So, but yeah, having lads like Adge, Finton, you had Dermot, you had Eugene Brady, you had Johnny Brady obviously as well. Like, you had a lot of lads there who had huge experience, and we looked up to those players as we were growing up. And it was just I think it was just a sweet spot where the team would just, you had one team, you had a group of players who were kind of passing the baton on to a new group of players, and it was great.
Adrian, we talk about the guys who were influential on the field of play, but you also had an influential manager in Donald Dunno, because he managed the team that time, so he was coming from that era as well.
Yeah, I think it's a very important point. I suppose from Dolan, he was transitioning from player to management. In fairness to Dolan, he was brave in terms of his own time. He had a lot of time with it as a player himself. Then he went straight into management, managed us. It must have been tricky for him because he was managing guys he played with. We were probably always underage, so he kind of was used to sort of managing us underage. So, in fairness, he took the challenge. He probably knew how to train we would say the more senior players probably knew how to manage their training routines. And then, as Paul alluded to, he obviously brought in Frankie Wright to assist in the training schedules, and obviously, as Paul said, Frankie brought lots of energy, enthusiasm, fun into the training sessions. And that's what keeps your training sessions alive, keeps you on to train all summer, and ultimately Donald manage that through with his selectors as well. And the reality was when we played the intermediate matches, the tactics were always spot on. And we obviously had our own individual jobs to do in the day, but the management team would have prepared tactics, and they were spot on all the big matches in the final and semi-final.
It was kind of the transitional period in the GAA where the old style football was perhaps dwindling just a little bit, and a new style coming in. So that was embraced by everybody, obviously.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because obviously the game's getting more athletic, and obviously more so in recent decades. And it's funny because I was at a wedding recently, and I was talking to Fenber Crow from Lacken, and we played Lacken in the semi-final of that tournament, and they had been beaten by Cullen the previous year in the final, so they were very keen to win the intermediate in '94, and they drew Lara in the semi-finals, and he admitted to me there a few months ago, saying that they actually felt Lara, they were a seasoned team, they would have had the legs, they would have ran Lara quite well in Breffni Park, and they were very confident winning that day, and it turned out actually one of our better games. For whatever reason, Lara played very well on the day, and it's kind of a transition between, I suppose, maybe youth exuberance and, I suppose, back to experience and knowledge. So yeah, it was a period of change.
Now, it'd be fair to say, Paul, that the championship of that year did not start well for you, because you were in a 3 group. You were beaten by Ballymakew, if memory serves right, in the first game.
That's right.
So you had a regrouping to do.
I actually can't remember who we played, who else was in that group that year. Do you remember?
Kill and Drumalee, was it?
Kilgary, yeah. The first game was, it was. And I was speaking to Eddie McEntee earlier today, and we went through the year as match by match, and in hindsight, when you look back on that year, looking at it from today, it was probably the best thing that happened to that team at the time, in that we got a hammering. Like if we'd won that game comfortably enough, like we might have gone into the next game a little relaxed or whatever, but losing that game as badly as we did, and we lost it terribly. It was just a terrible result. And I remember, I was terrible in the day, but it was a game that we kept went away from it. Donal and his, the management team, they reorganised, they examined it and all the rest. And I think in hindsight, it was probably the best thing that happened to us at that time, because we went into the games after that with a bit of an edge to us. We were more focused. Changes were made to the team. People were brought in. People were taken out. And I think in terms of the entire championship, it was probably a good thing. Although at the time, it was a terrible result. Like, and I came away from it thinking, we have no hope this year. That's it. Year over.
But there was that enthusiasm to refocus.
Very much so. Yes. Yeah. And we come off like we were playing relatively well in the league. And we maintained our league status that year, but it was a shock to the system. But we came back from it, and we managed to. We had a good result against. Remember, it was a wet day up in Crosskeys the day we played Kilgarry. I actually have no recollection of the Kilgarry whatsoever. I don't know when did we play that. You know where we played that? I have no idea. I don't even know where it was played. But I remember the rest of it. But I do remember the Kilgarry game, and then we had a playoff against Ballymaking Breffni Park. Another fairly, it wasn't a good game to play and or to watch, I'm sure, but we got through it and we went on from there.
Patrick, the final itself, your memory of that, there's loads of statistics to kind of indicate how you won it. Saved penalties, 9-point players, man of the match. There was loads of things happening in that final, and it's something that you probably still remember quite well.
I suppose you remember bits and pieces. One of the things to remember, I think, one of the Corner Fame fellas, Pat McKernan, I think had a bad leg break that day, I remember it. And it's funny, as things went on, how we subsequently worked together later on, but yeah, Pat was a big name player at the time, and he was a big loss to them on the day. I suppose the 9 points stick in the memory. Gary had a really great day that day. Ange had a massive game that day for us as well, and just watching the video there, certainly he gave them lots of hassle in the middle of the field, as he always did, whether you were playing with him or against him. Ange was not right. There were nuances in the game. The penalty save obviously was a big one. I know Brian's with us tonight, and Brian was always good crack. And I was just watching it again as well. Brian was the classic long distance kick out. Today probably he'd have no place at all. And I just watched Brian, every time he placed the ball, he turned his back and walked away 10 yards and put it about 60-70 yards out the field, whereas it's just a complete opposite to where things are now. It's just interesting to watch the video. But yeah, look, it was a game I always felt we were comfortable in. I felt we probably we were within ourselves winning it. It was 15 scores to 8. I think we were significantly a better team, but maybe just didn't just push on ahead as much as we should on the day. But I think we were always comfortable on the day.
Now, like the Ruby celebrations, and we've had the guests here already, how important is it for you guys to be here tonight, courtesy of Geraldine and Lawrence, to acknowledge 25 years?
Yeah, look, it's very important to us because, again, like everything else, when you're sitting out and you win things I was 24 at the time, and we were Division 1 senior status, and we won an intermediate, and we were going to be back up, and we were going to compete, and you were going to win lots of other things and all the rest, and suddenly the years go by, and I think it was Aj made the point there earlier. Years go by, and then you go back down, and then you lose a couple of years, and suddenly the years go by, and 25 years on, and we haven't been back there since. I know the guys have had an excellent win from junior up, and yeah, look, it's critically important that we remember these things, because ultimately, that's what drives the club on. There were wonderful days. If you watch the videos, the quality's not great, but there were super days when our team were out on the pitch and winning competitions. I suppose one of the things I'd like to acknowledge, and certainly to acknowledge Lawrence and Geraldine, but I'd also like to acknowledge Gary Gary's contribution, particularly in terms of all of the memorabilia that has been shared over the last 2 or 3 months. It's phenomenal the amount of stuff that has been shared with everybody, and the memories that we all see, and I'd like to think that hopefully we can capture that for some sort of posterity. You know, absolutely treasured memories that, you know, you forget about all the things that happened that you forget about, and we need to do our best in whatever way we can to capture that in the annals of the club history or whatever it might be. But yeah, look at it, it's very important. You know, all our heroes are here. My heroes from the early 80s are here. The next generation's heroes from the 90s and the noughties are here. But more importantly, some of the new team are here. And you know, I've been to see the current Lara team playing loads of times, and they're super footballers. And I noticed that about all footballers nowadays. They're way more skillful than any of us were, and their ability to master all the skills of the game are excellent. And they're just knocking on the door, and just that little push on, and we need to see it because there's a cup here, and we need to be back here next September looking at this cup again, as Tomas said earlier. And it's important, and I think it's important for those guys to sort of see maybe just what it means to us, who are winners, to be back here and to acknowledge what has happened in the past.
Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Shields, Paul Brady, David Notes, let's hear them. Right, we're going to strategically put a few fellas around the floor because we have some absolutely brilliant memorabilia and various things for auction. So we're about to start that now. So we're all ready. Can we remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that all the proceeds from the auction and all the proceeds from a raffle that they will have a little bit earlier on going to Larry United Gaelic Football Club. So lads, if we can have you there, please.